Hello! Hope you guys are all okay and all good. Welcome to another video filmed on the same day. Yes, I'm wearing the same t-shirt. Yes, my hair looks the same. This is my top backlist books of 2017. It's very easy when we're doing all of this top books of 2017 lark that we forget the things that didn't come out in 2017 that we might have really loved. And I've never done this before, but I'm going to do it now. These are my 5 most favoritist books that didn't come out in 2017 that I have really loved this year. Let's go! The first book on this list is The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. I listened to the audiobook of this earlier on this year, read by the rather wonderful Anne Hathaway, who I love. She is perfect. And absolutely perfect to be reading that book as well. I find it really hard to believe that I've not already read The Wizard of Oz. I thought I had, but I've obviously just seen the film enough times and listened to the soundtrack enough times that I felt like I knew it. Turns out I did not. The Wizard of Oz as a book, much like Peter Pan, is darker than The Wizard of Oz as a film and a musical, as you might expect. For those of you who don't know, it tells the story of Dorothy Gale, who is caught in a hurricane and finds her house planted in the middle of the magical land of Oz, where she has crushed a witch and takes her shoes and goes on an adventure to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz to find a way to get home. Along the way, meeting the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, and doing all sorts of stuff. It's a fantastic book. If you are if you want to read some children's classics, I did a great big video actually for the Pan Macmillan YouTube channel, which I'll link down below, which is all about how it's never too late to read children's classics. Go and check that video out. It's quite good, if I do say so myself. But I do recommend that you give The Wizard of Oz a go. And actually on Audible, it's got a version that is read by Anne Hathaway, and she does it so amazingly well. It's so fun. Go check it out. Next up is Holding the Man by Timothy Conograve. This is a book that I feel like I've talked about an awful lot to an awful lot of people over the past year. Don't know, I think it was, right, so the reason that I read this, I've had a lot of Holding the Man love this year, and I think that's because I read the book, well I listened to the audiobook, and I think the film came up as a recommendation on Netflix, so I listened to the audiobook and I read the play, and at some point I will watch the film. But I've not had good things, so I'm kind of middling on actually even bothering to do that. But Holding the Man by Tim Conograve is a memoir about growing up in Australia, growing up gay in Australia in the 70s in quite a Christian surrounding, like quite a Christian society. This tells the story of Tim's life and how he fell in love with the dreamy football captain John Callio, and they grew up together and they fell in love and they fell apart and they got back together. It weathers many storms, and it also goes into the HIV crisis. It's so heartbreaking and gorgeous and absolutely not what I thought was going to happen when I first started listening to it. Like, I thought it was just going to be kind of like a happy clappy gay memoir. Oh George, you were so wrong, so naive. It's really sad and really beautiful and quite poignant. And actually I had a moment not too long ago, actually it was after I read the play, that I was kind of reading more about Timothy Conograve and more about his life, and he died. And I mean, of course he died, but like, it's spoilers, but it's on the back of the book as well. But both Tim and John test positive for HIV. So of course Tim died, but it's just one of those things where I didn't read the book soon enough that I could tell him that I really loved the book and that I found it really interesting. It's just a weird thing that I knew that it's that weird thing of kind of being like so obsessed with something and so in love with a book and being like, oh Christ, I'm never going to get to meet him and tell him how brilliant it is and how gorgeous it is and how much it made my heart hurt. Really gorgeous book. I really do recommend it. It's obviously on this list for a reason, and like it's really affecting, and one of the few grown-up books that I read this year, but it's really beautiful. I do recommend it. Yeah. The next book on this list is The Great American Whatever by Tim Federle. I have waxed lyrical about this book quite a lot ever since I read it earlier on this year. It's about a boy called Quinn Roberts who is not really participating in life at the moment. He's kind of checked out of everything ever since his sister died in a car accident. It is only when his best friend actually drags him almost kicking and screaming out of his bedroom that he manages to start participating in life again, and he meets a boy and he can finally see some kind of future ahead of himself and starts maybe even thinking of having a starring role in his own life. It's brilliant, and I've been so much about really voicey YA this year, and ooh, the voice in this book is brilliant, and Quinn is so great, and you want to reach into these pages and you want to give him a big hug because he is going through it, and it's a really cracking book. I've never read any other Tim Federle before, but I got a recommend from a lovely guy who works in marketing publicity in publishing called Paul Black, who is a lovely, lovely, lovely man. And he said that I should read Tim's middle grade books, Better Nate Than Never and 5, 6, 7, Nate, which sound so up my street it hurts. So I need to get into those at some point, but I really loved this year. Second to last on this list, I mean, if anything's going to make you cry this year, it's going to be The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher. Released in 2016, not too long before she died, I don't think. This is a mixture of actual diaries that Carrie kept on set when she was filming A New Hope, and different stories about her growing up and growing into Star Wars. I read this after Carrie Fisher died. It's really quite heartbreaking reading because I love Carrie Fisher an awful lot. I love her as a person because she's so outspoken and so not here for anyone's bullshit, and I love it. And she's also just really sweet and lovely and loving, and also she's Princess Leia, and I grew up being shown the Star Wars films by my granddad. So the original trilogy was shown to me by my granddad, probably when I was too young to be watching it. But I loved those films and I loved her. And the films make me cry now, and like seeing her on screen in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi just brings me to tears because she's so amazing and so perfect and just a wonderful beacon of joy and love, and I adore her. So if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're a fan of Carrie Fisher, if you were as cut up by her death as I was, I do recommend this. It's absolutely lovely. And last but by no means least, if I'd have done this video every single year, which I have not, but if I had done this video every single year for the past 5 years, the book One Day by David Nichols would have been on that list, because every year I do a little reread, or in this case a re-listen of the wonderful book by David Nichols, which won all sorts of awards and has sold all sorts of copies, had a semi-good, average film made of the book. It's an absolutely stunning book. If you are yet to read it, it is one of my favourite books of all time for so many reasons. The story always gets me. I love the idea of the universe working in like a mysterious way that's kind of throwing people together, and the structure of it is so interesting. It's told on one day over the course of 20 years, from when Emma Morley and Dexter Mayhew first meet when they've just graduated from uni, right to like 20 years later. It tells where they are on this particular day, whether they're together, whether they're apart, whether they're friends, whether they're fighting, whatever it is. It tells that story of where they are, and it's so brilliant and it's so clever, and it's just one of the best books ever. I really recommend it. If you've not read it, you're one of the few, and I think you should. It's so brilliant, and I can highly recommend the audiobook for that one. It's absolutely cracking. And that's the end of this video. These, one day aside, are my favourite backlist books of 2017. Let me know what yours are in the comments box below. What did you read in 2017 that did not come out in 2017 that you've really enjoyed? I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to put a thumb on this video if you did, to subscribe if you want to see more, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of these videos. I love all of your faces, and I will speak to you soon. Bye!